Have you ever felt so obsessed with somebody that you could literally feel a physical ache in your body? If so, you may have been experiencing what is called limerence. And in this video, we're going to explain the signs and the symptoms of limerence so that you know whether or not that's actually what you're experiencing or maybe what your partner is experiencing with somebody else. Let's get into it. Limerence is a deep emotional state. It's an obsession with somebody else. It's not love, although it can easily be mistaken for love by the people in the state of limerence. Got intrusive thoughts, a constant state of anxiety and focus and obsession on this other person. Every other priority in the person's life experiencing limerence falls by the wayside. And unlike a healthy relationship, there's literally no balance going on here. Every other priority becomes secondary to this other person. They feel elated when they're with the other person or when they hear from the other person, and they feel devastated if they don't hear from the other person. Some of the physical symptoms that a person experiencing limerence might feel are butterflies in the stomach, that anxiety when you're with the other person. It's like you just can't help yourself. And it's a mix of excitement and nervousness. You might also experience an actual elevated heart rate, heart palpitations, because you just can't stand the idea of not being with this person. Insomnia and sleep disruption are also common, especially if this person sometimes texts you late at night. You may lay there just tossing and turning, hoping and waiting for them to text you or call you, not knowing if they're going to. And of course, a loss in appetite, which can result in weight loss, is also common because, again, every priority in the person's life experiencing limerence is going by the wayside, including healthy eating habits. They might also start drinking more heavily, maybe smoking if they didn't smoke before or they used to smoke and they'd quit. They might return to that. Drugs might also come back into play if they'd had that issue going on in the past. Emotional signs of limerence include intrusive thoughts. Again, this person experiencing limerence is obsessed with this other person and everything else is a secondary priority. So this person is top of mind all the time. Wild mood swings are also very common because, again, this person is on pins and needles. They're elated when they hear from the person or they're with the person, and they're devastated when they're not. So it can send their moods all over the place, and they can be happy one moment and angry or sad or despondent the next. This person is anxious all the time because they literally don't know what they would do with their life if this other person wasn't in it. It's that bad. And there's a constant fear of rejection. Sort of like a drug addict. And when they're with this other person, it's kind of like that first hit of heroin for a junkie. And there's the dopamine going through the roof. And all of a sudden they're elated and they're just like, and then they go through withdrawals when the person backs away. And of course, it's also worth pointing out that while it's not always the case, often limerence happens with one person with somebody else while they're in a relationship with a different person. So typically this is the result of an affair, which can make everything worse, especially if there are kids involved. Telltale behavioral signs. This is especially important if you suspect the person that you're in a relationship with might be in limerence with somebody else. Those include compulsive behaviors like constantly checking their phone or their social media or constantly going places where they could sort of accidentally bump into this person they're experiencing limerence with. Extensively daydreaming about this other person and future plans and what they might do together. And major adjustments in their personal life. That could include how they dress, how they style themselves, where they go, what they do, what habits they engage in, how they eat, what restaurants they go to, what coffee shops they go to. All of that can change because they're obsessed with this other person and they're changing these things in the hopes that it's going to somehow ingratiate them to this other person even more. Ultimately, limerence is not a good thing. It's not a healthy place to be mentally and emotionally. It also always has an expiration date. Limerence never lasts and it never turns into a real relationship. It has an expiration date, unfortunately, a wide-ranging expiration date, anywhere from 3 months to 36 months, with about 18 months being the average length of time for a relationship born out of limerence, if in fact the two people do end up engaging in a relationship, which doesn't always happen, especially if the person feeling that way is in a relationship with somebody else. Not everyone is going to want to be in a relationship with a cheater. Ultimately, if you're feeling this way, it's great that you recognize and are seeking information and advice about how to deal with limerence. That's great. It's like the alcoholic who realizes that they're an alcoholic. They've had that moment of clarity even if they haven't quit drinking yet. So that's great if that's how you are now and you've recognized it. But if you recognize that you're in a relationship with somebody who's experiencing limerence with somebody else, that is a little problematic. And now you have a decision to make. Do you sit around and wait for them to come out of limerence, or do you cut your losses and end the relationship? And the answer there is not really cut and dried. I can't tell you what to do. I can tell you what I would do in that situation. First of all, I would try and evaluate how long they've been in that state of limerence with the other person, and are they actively engaging in an affair with that other person? If I felt like, yes, it was a physical affair and it had been going on for a long time, and I had a lot of time invested in a relationship with this person, I might be willing to wait for it to end in the hopes of being able to repair my relationship with my partner. But if I felt like it hadn't been going on that long and maybe we hadn't been in a relationship together that long, I would probably cut my losses. Have you been in a limerent relationship with somebody else, or has your partner been in limerence with somebody else? Let me know your story in the comments, but for now, I'll see you in the next video.